We are back finishing up problem 4.29. We've already calculated a plant-wide rate and come up with overhead and a unit cost for plant-wide. So $12.75 for a standard, $1,500 for a deluxe exercise bike. And that's just using a plant-wide rate of $30 per direct labor hour for overhead. Then we went back and we said, okay, well, what does overhead really consist of? Well, it's got all these different components. We do these activities like maintenance, engineering, materials handling, setups, and so on. And we figured out a rate for each one of those activities. So now we could come up with a unit-based cost and still using our same, of course, prime costs, direct materials plus direct labor equals prime costs for each of these units. But now we can add in our overhead using all these different activity-based drivers for our overhead. So let's just go ahead and do that. All right. So we have our prime costs, and we are doing standard and deluxe. All right, so prime costs, we know they tell us that. It is $4,500,000 for the standard and $5,250,000 for the deluxe. So there's our direct labor and our direct materials for each of those. Now we got to add in the overhead. First part of the problem, we just did $30 per labor hour. Pretty simple, and we were done. Now we're going to bring in all these different activities. So the first activity that we did was this $20 per maintenance hour. So for each one of these, we look up their maintenance hours and multiply it times 20 to get that cost. So maintenance hours, we got standard and we got deluxe. So we are going to, the rate is 20 for both, right? The rate is always the same. It's how many hours of each. So for standard, we use 6,000. And for deluxe, we use 24,000. Right? So for standard, 20 times 6,000 is 120,000. And 20 times 24,000 is 480,000. And we did our maintenance hours. The next rate is for engineering, and it's $20 per engineering hour. So standard, deluxe, 20 and 20. For standard, it used 13,500 engineering hours. And for deluxe, they used 31,500 engineering hours. Multiply it to those by 20. For standard, you're going to get 270,000. And for deluxe, you're going to get 630,000. All right. The next rate that we figured out was our materials handling. So every time we moved materials, it was $20 per move. All right. So for material handling, standard 20, deluxe 20 times. So for materials, I guess we moved them 15,000 for standard. And for deluxe, we did it 45,000. So 15 times 20 is 300,000. And 20 times 45,000 is 900,000. Okay, so standard and deluxe. The next rate, setups. So we did that by number of setups, and we calculated that it was $12.50 per setup. All right, so for setups, standard and deluxe, 1250. So for standard, we did 60 setups. And for deluxe, we did 540 setups. Right? And that means for standard, we came up with 75,000 overhead for setups, and for deluxe, we have 675. So there's the overhead there. The next thing was purchasing, which the activity driver is the number of purchase requests, and it's $200 per request. All right, so purchases, standard, deluxe, 200 is the rate. For standard, we had 750. And for deluxe, we did 1,500. 200 times 750 is 150,000. 200 times 1,500 is going to be 300,000. So now we've added our overhead for the purchases to each one of those. Next thing, our next rate would be our receivings. So every time we receive something, we decided it was $40. Right? So it's $40 per order received. Standard, deluxe, 40, and 40. So when we received standards, we received 3,000 of them. And when we received stuff for the deluxes, we received 4,500. 4 times 3 is 120. And 4 times 4,500 is 180,000. Okay, so now we have our additional overhead for receiving. And we had one last rate, paying for our invoices. So after we've received things, we had to pay the invoices. We figured it cost us $40 per invoice. So paying, right, standard and deluxe, 40. Apparently there were 3,750 invoices associated with standard bikes and 3,750 invoices associated with deluxe bikes. So 40 times 3,750 is 150. And both of them had 150. Okay, so now we can total our prime costs plus all our overheads. All right, so that is going to be $5,685,000. That's what we spent making our standard bikes, and $8,565,000. That's the total that we spent making all our deluxe bikes. Of course, we have to divide by number of units, right? So divide by how many standard bikes we made. We made 30,000. And we made 15,000 deluxe bikes. So cost per unit ends up being $189.50. So 5,685,000 divided by 30,000 is $189.50, and 8,565,000 divided by 15,000 ends up being $571. There's our cost per unit for a standard bike using activity-based costing. There's our cost per unit using activity-based costing for a deluxe bike. When we originally did this problem, we came up with 275, and 500 original, right? So originally, when we did just the plant-wide with the $30 per labor hour, we came up with very different numbers, 225 and 500. So that would make a big difference in how you cost them and your decisions you might make about making additional units. What are your profits? Activity-based costing are more accurate. However, you know, it's a while. You got a lot of drivers. It's a bit of work. I'll put it like that. All right. So that's problem 429. Next set of videos, we'll do problem 430.